We are back with the 7th episode of My Hero Academia Season 7. After last week's episode saw the success of the hero's plan to lure out All For One and his allies, as well as the beginning of the final war, this episode shows the continuation of the fight against Shigaraki, as well as Deku's confrontation with Toga. Before we begin, if you like this video and want to see more like it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as it really helps out. My Hero Academia is owned by Kohei Horikoshi, Shueisha, and Studio Bones. Please support the official release when you can. This episode is titled Inflation and covers from chapter 347 to chapter 349 of the manga. The episode begins with a quick recap of the hero's plan up to this point. How they used Shinso to get Aoyama to lure out All For One, how Monoma copied Kurogiri's Warp Gate quirk, and how the hero split up the villains across multiple locations. We then pick up where last episode left off, with Bakugo and company fighting Shigaraki on top of the Sky Coffin. Aizawa thinks to himself how they plan to use Deku as the trump card against Shigaraki, but since their plan was compromised, they'll have to find another way. After attacking Mirko with the amalgamation of hands from last episode, Shigaraki taunts Aizawa by saying, "I always thought you were a cool guy." What a disappointment, Eraserhead. That's when a bunch more fingers start sprouting out of Shigaraki. All the heroes kind of start freaking out because Aizawa and Monoma are using erasure on Shigaraki. This isn't something he should be able to do, but Shigaraki says, "This isn't a quirk, this is growth, a part of my body. Just like growing hair or growing fingernails. This is the result of a body that's adapted to the continuously evolving quirk, the future of superhuman society. Something you heroes who have turned a blind eye to the inevitable future can't understand." Aizawa then gets a comms transmission from Deku, who tells Aizawa that Himiko Toga got him and is now on Okuto Island. Deku requests to be warped over to the Sky Coffin, but that's impossible right now because Monoma can only copy one quirk at once. If all of Shigaraki's fingers can use decay, then the battle will be lost the moment Monoma switches off from erasure. Aizawa tells Deku he'll have to make it to the Sky Coffin on his own. Best Jeanist and the others regroup and says, "One for All isn't with us, but we'll win this fight without him." Switch over to Okuto Island, where Gang Orca, Deku, Ochako, and Asui are fending off the villains, though they're kinda panicked because Deku isn't even supposed to be there. Deku says they'll have to find a way for him to leave Okuto Island and reach the Sky Coffin. That's when Deku is attacked by Himiko Toga, who tells him not to leave. Deku's super confused because Danger Sense didn't even detect Toga coming for him, and the Vestige of the Fourth User says how her attacks aren't even being picked up as a threat, and it's unbelievable that someone like her even exists today. Deku asks Toga what she wants from him, and she replies, "I want you to be my boyfriend." There's then some pretty funny narration from Present Mike. He says, "Izuku Midoriya is the 9th user of One For All, and the most important factor in this battle. All For One, who has been pulling the strings in Japan and around the world since the beginning of superhuman society, is obsessed with stealing the power that now resides inside Midoriya. Up till now, Midoriya has had a few encounters with Himiko Toga, but she's never confessed his feelings towards him, so he never knew." We then see Deku getting all confused and nervous, and he says, "Boyfriend? What are you talking about?" And Present Mike finishes the narration by saying, "But after all is said and done, Izuku Midoriya is still a nerd." Toga then says, "I've always loved you since I first saw you all beaten up. You looked so cool back then. I want to become you. Please give me your blood." Toga then disappears behind a wave. Deku prepares for Toga to sneak up on him again and realizes since she can't be picked up by Danger Sense, this is a bad matchup for him. He tells Toga that he wanted to be strong like All Might, so he knows what it's like to want to be the person you admire. But he also asks her, "Why can't you just share the feelings of the person you love?" Toga then comes to a realization. She remembers how she was always told throughout her entire life to just be normal, live a normal life, and love people normally. She realizes that Deku is just like those people, the people that rejected Toga's way of living. Ochako tackles Toga, and Toga says, "I was holding out hope for Izuku, but it doesn't matter anymore. If the world will reject me, then I'll reject the world." And Toga stabs Ochako. Toga tells her, "I thought you would be different because we both like the same person." That's when Asui swoops in and kicks Toga away. Asui tells Deku to leave, and that she and Ochako will take down Toga themselves. Ochako tells Deku to go deal with Shigaraki. Deku uses float in combination with Fajin and Air Force to make his way to the Sky Coffin. The second user tells Deku, "Calm down, you're panicking. Your new equipment can't withstand One For All's full power, or were you trying to activate my power? I told you that ability is only to be used as a last resort. Calm down and focus on the battle ahead." Cut to Kamino in front of the All Might statue. We see how Dabi's flames have made it unable for the heroes to attack him all at once. Shoto stands before Dabi, and Dabi says, "Wow, so he didn't come to see me yet again, and instead sent his third son, my little brother." Obviously he referring to Endeavor. Shoto responds by saying, "Don't misunderstand. I'm not here because Dad ordered me to. I'm here because I want to stop you myself." He continues to ask Dabi, "If you were alive all this time, why didn't you come home?" And Dabi says, "Oh, you really want to know? I guess I'll tell you since I am your older brother after all. I'll tell you the story of how Toya Todoroki became Dabi, and how I got my flames to burn hotter than yours ever could." And that brings us to the end of the episode. The preview for next week's episode shows the beginning of Dabi and Shoto's final battle, as well as Dabi's true origin. Overall, this was a very solid episode. While the animation itself wasn't all that great, there were a few shots that looked really good even when compared to the manga. Present Mike's narration during this episode was pretty funny as well, and the way the atmosphere nearly completely changed when we switched over to Dabi and Shoto looked great. I give this episode a 7 out of 10. But that is the end of my recap/review of this week's episode of My Hero Academia Season 7. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you all for watching, and that's all from me.